What if I told you that even the most annoying, confusing, harmful behaviors often start with a positive intent? Not a good outcome, but a good reason. Now, stay with me because by the end of this video, I'm going to share with you a concept that can immediately de escalate conflict and change the way you see people forever. So, last week we began the series entitled The Beautiful Attitudes. And if you haven't watched episode 1, I highly recommend that you do so, and I'll link it below because it provides an overview of how perception shapes our reality. And the beautiful attitudes are a set of constructive, generalized perceptions. So, understanding, really having a solid understanding of how important perception is what adds the power behind the series. So, beautiful attitude number 2 is also a concept that's used in therapy, counseling, coaching, and when used as a constructive generalized perception, completely transformed my relationships and how I approach conflict. So, beautiful attitude number 2 states that every behavior is driven by a positive intention. Now, before you roll your eyes, that doesn't mean that every behavior is good, justified, or harmless. It just means that at some point it was driven by a real human need. This perception was really powerful for me because it helps me not judge people when they behave in a manner that I don't understand or agree with. It helps me remember that although the behavior may be unhealthy, the need underneath it is human. Believing that others are trying, even if poorly, helps reduce anger and allows me to speak with intention and not react based on emotion. When I was going through my life coach certification program and we were studying the beautiful attitudes, this completely changed my relationship with my mom. And we've always had a wonderful relationship, but I realized that I had some unresolved anger because I didn't understand some of the choices that she makes. For instance, I have an older sister. My oldest sister is in her 60s and lives at home, doesn't have a job. You know, my mom supports her, and I don't understand that relationship because in my eyes, you know, I viewed it as enabling, but seeing that my mom is trying and that's her way of love, like, you know, that's their relationship. Even if I don't agree with it, it doesn't matter. I love my mom so much. She's such a wonderful person, and I just want to see her have joy and not be so burdened with stress and taking care of everybody. You know, she's older now, and I just want the best for her. Seeing things from this perspective also helps me approach things as a learning opportunity because instead of asking, like, what's wrong with this person, I start asking, what need is really driving this behavior? What is this person trying to achieve or protect? And seeing it from that perspective really helps de escalate conflict, making healthy communication possible. That shift in perspective really helps me separate the person from the behavior and look past the behavior and how it made me feel. Because oftentimes it's just a case of misaligned goals, not bad motives. I like to say that using this perception is like a lens for understanding, but not a free pass. because you can condemn or change a behavior without condemning the person, which allows accountability without shame, which makes growth so much more effective. And this idea is just as powerful when you turn it inwards. So, I'm really hard on myself because I see the value of these tools and the joy and freedom that it brings, allowing me to use my energy on being the best person that I can instead of being angry or dealing with, negative feelings or irrational thoughts. And especially when it comes to myself. So instead of beating myself up about my bad habits, I started asking, what is this behavior trying to accomplish? And if it's not healthy, then what healthier choices could I make? For instance, I love sugar and I love to just pig out. I will eat one healthy meal with like a meat and a vegetable and save all my calories for candy, cookies, ice cream. It's really bad. But I realized, I asked myself, like, what is this behavior trying to accomplish? And I realized that it's my way of treating myself. So understanding that made real change possible because I knew what the intention is. I knew what I was working towards accomplishing. I needed to find some other way to reward myself because I knew what the behavior was, what the desire behind the behavior was. Allows me to replace bad habits instead of trying and failing to suppress them. So here's the tricky part. Positive intention doesn't mean the behavior is justified, that there aren't consequences, and that we ignore the impact of the choice. In which understanding this helps us focus on the root cause instead of trying to mask the symptom. To me, loving is helping others grow, and which means being held accountable. If a behavior is not healthy and not in the best interest of all involved, then I don't want to enable somebody to continue with a bad behavior. For example, I have 4 beautiful grandchildren. My oldest is just turned 3. He's a boy, Ezra. And then he has a little brother who's 10 months, Elliot. And then my other daughter has identical twin girls, uh, Kiana and Vela. And man, they are my life. Being a grandma is one of the best blessings. And I'm so glad that I know what I know now and chose to change, and recognize that I wanted to be the best version of myself. Because, like I said, those kids mean everything to me. But I was spending time with my grandson and Ezra and Elliot on this past weekend, and Ezra had picked up my phone off the couch, and I said, "Can you please bring that to Gigi?" They have 6 grandmas. They're so blessed. So I'm Gigi. My daughters came up with that name. And it's so easy for the kids to say, and oh, I just love being Gigi. But anyways, I digress. He picked up my phone off the couch and I asked him, "Ezra, please bring me my phone." And he said, "No." And then I repeated myself, I said, "Ezra, please bring me my phone." And he gave it a toss. And so I turned the TV off. He was watching a show and he does not get to watch TV very often. So his shows are precious to him. And so I turned it off and he started crying to no end. And God, it broke my heart. I would have done anything to stop him from hurting. But I knew that I have to hold him accountable and be consistent with my words because that's how I show love. I don't want to, I want to choose consistency over connection. Oh, I have so much to share with you guys. That's another tool. But it really broke my heart. And so eventually, because he was really crying for a while, I started tickling him and I'm like, you can't be sad when Gigi's here, and changed his train of thought, and we moved on. Seeing behavior through the lens of positive intent hasn't made my life perfect, but it has made me more empathetic, emotionally regulated, better at solving problems. What my journey has taught me is that self compassion isn't weakness, it's a tool for sustainable growth. So the next time you're triggered by yourself or someone else, stop and ask, what's the positive intention here? That question alone can change everything. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. Next week, we'll continue the series with beautiful attitudes. I'll see you on Monday.